The eagle flies alone for a reason. It's not out of fear or arrogance, but because its high altitude requires separation. Maybe you're watching this and feel like you're too different to belong, too deep to be understood, or too aware to fit in. You're not antisocial, you're spiritually appointed. The ache you feel inside isn't loneliness, it's a legacy being built in silence. You don't follow the crowd because you were never made for an ordinary life. You're not ignored, you're just not yet ready to be revealed. You're not cast away, you're being kept safe. If you've ever wondered why you feel like an outsider, why your spirit feels heavy in a noisy room, or why you prefer quiet to attention, this message is for you. By the time this is over, you'll understand why you walk a solitary path, why certain people had to leave, and why you must not shrink to be noticed. Being chosen means being set apart, not left behind. Stay with me. There's a clear difference about people who carry a divine mark. It's hard to describe, but when they enter a room, the whole atmosphere changes. It's not about charisma or confidence. It's a quiet power from being chosen, called, and dedicated to something bigger than approval, attention, or popularity. Because of this, they can't be everywhere or with everyone. They aren't meant for everyone's company. They weren't created to blend in. Their spirit was never wired to walk alongside the average. Their journey has a sacredness, a divine rhythm that doesn't fit in crowded places or loud groups. Anointed people are never overwhelmed by company, not because they're better, but because their design is different. Some people don't get this and take it personally. They mistake your distance for pride, your time alone for judgment, and your quietness for dislike. But what they don't see is the cost of carrying a divine appointment. You can't have what everyone else has and still clearly hear God. You can't be everywhere with everyone and still protect your inner strength. You can't mix aimlessly and still guard the sacred fire within you, because your spirit is tuned to a frequency others can't hear. The more voices you let into your space, the harder it is to hear the whisper of your destiny. Crowds bring confusion, chaos, and a need to compromise. For someone with a divine purpose, compromise is too costly. There is no special appointment without separation. Every chosen person in sacred stories, every prophet, every healer, every leader, was first set apart before put forward. Before a divine purpose is seen by everyone, it must be protected in private. This is why you felt that sharp feeling of being disconnected, that unexplained distance from friends you once cared about, that spiritual ache you feel in rooms full of people but empty of meaning, that tiredness that comes not from physical effort, but from the emotional work of trying to fit in where you don't belong. That ache isn't by chance, it's a divine separation. You were pulled back because something sacred was being prepared inside you, something unique. And not everyone can be trusted around what's forming within you. The divine appointment on your life makes people uneasy, especially those who benefit from your quietness, your shrinking, or your playing small. But you're not here to make everyone comfortable. You're here to live out your purpose, and purpose doesn't always come with company. Sometimes it comes with long nights, silent prayers, unanswered questions, and a kind of solitude that makes you humble. That is the necessary breaking that releases your strength. The truth is, when you are truly chosen, you will be solitary before you are celebrated. You will be misunderstood before you are respected. You will be overlooked before you are embraced. That's the pattern. That's the preparation. If your spirit isn't made strong in private, the weight of a public purpose will crush you. So God keeps you protected, not because you aren't ready to be seen, but because He isn't ready to see you harmed. He cares for you too much to let your name become known before your character is solid. He protects your inner strength before He lets others share in your blessings. That isn't a punishment, it's preparation. The cocoon might feel like a cage, but it's actually a safeguard. You are being formed. And honestly, most people want your presence, but not the results without the hard work. They want the overflow without respecting the source. They love the outcome but couldn't handle the struggle. So, chosen ones must be careful. They can't let just anyone handle what is sacred. They can't expose their growth to public opinion. When you are divinely appointed, your life becomes sacred. Everything you do carries a spiritual weight. Even your silence speaks. Even your presence causes reflection. That's why your circle must be small, intentional, and pure. Not because you're better, but because what you carry is bigger. You aren't for the masses. You are for the special moment. And when that time comes, your voice will echo through generations. But until then, you must remain protected, cultivated, and preserved. There is honor in the shadows. There is strength in the quiet. There is growth in a hidden place. So don't fight the isolation. Don't grieve the lost friendships. Don't chase after rooms that no longer fit. You were never meant to fit in. You were called to bring change. And change doesn't happen in crowds. It happens in quiet places, where your soul meets the sacred, where your ego fades and your true self emerges. Let them go. Let the crowd keep dancing to the noise. You have a different song within your spirit, a sound that can only be released through obedience, a melody that needs stillness to grow. This isn't a season for popularity. This is a season for being refined, for preparing, for protecting the purpose that was placed on your life since before you were born. Yes, the chosen are never surrounded by a crowd, because crowds often bring distraction, and distraction is the enemy of destiny. You were not made to be everywhere. You were made to be effective, and being effective often comes with solitude. Ask any prophet, any healer, any voice of truth. Their life was never crowded. It was consecrated, and so is yours. Stay your course, protect your inner strength, honor your solitude, and never forget that the weight of what you carry is the reason for your separation. You weren't rejected, you were reserved. You weren't abandoned, you were appointed. You weren't forgotten, you were foretold. The divine purpose costs too much to be handled by many, and so the chosen must walk with a light step, because what they carry is heavy. There are truths the ears may never hear, but the soul always knows. There are secrets lips never say, but the spirit feels them before words can be formed. When you are chosen, when the divine has blessed you and entrusted you with a calling, your sensitivity isn't a weakness, it's your guide. It's how you move through a world that's too busy trying to be seen while refusing to truly feel. The chosen don't need to hear someone speak to know what they carry. They don't need proof or evidence. They simply sense it. They feel the energy of a room before they even sit down, and they know, before a single sentence is spoken, who came with a pure heart and who came with a hidden agenda. This isn't being paranoid or overthinking. This is wisdom that has been refined in quietness, sharpened in solitude, and activated by pain, betrayal, and awakening. Feelings don't lie. Smiles can lie. Words can deceive and hide the truth. But energy reveals everything. The soul has no filter. When you are chosen, your body becomes like an antenna. You walk into a space and suddenly feel heavy. You don't know why, but your chest feels tight. Your spirit pulls back. You smile, but inside something tightens and says, "Don't stay long." That isn't fear, that is wisdom. That is your inner alarm warning you that your spirit refuses to be polluted. That is the divine whispering. This room is too loud for your peace. Sometimes you feel this from the people closest to you, because the most dangerous energies aren't from enemies. They are from those who pretend to love you but secretly compete. From those who smile in your face but are bothered by your growth. From those who say all the right things but whose spirit is bothered every time you succeed. The chosen don't just hear what is said, they fear what is unspoken. This is the burden of carrying a sacred energy in a world obsessed with pretending. You walk with love, but you see the jealousy. You lead with peace, but you feel the resentment. You give kindness, but you sense the hidden bitterness behind the compliments. No one else may see it, but you do, because energy doesn't lie. There is a loneliness that comes with being sensitive to energy. You don't wish to be this way, you just are. You don't want to read a room like an open book, but you do. You don't want to feel every shift in energy, every change in attitude, every hidden insult behind a smile, but your spirit won't let you ignore it. So you become quieter. You become more selective, not because of pride, but to protect yourself. You stop explaining your quietness to people who don't respect your spirit. You stop doubting the signals your soul picks up. You stop trying to fit in just to keep the atmosphere light. When you carry light, it disrupts anything built on shadows. And it is not your job to dim that light so others can remain comfortable in their disguise. You weren't chosen to be tolerated, you were chosen to be felt. That's why people can't forget you, even if they try. That's why your presence stays with them long after you've left. It's not what you said, it's what you brought with you. You carried truth, you carried clarity, you carried authenticity, you carried a mirror. And some people hate mirrors because they show them their masks. So don't be surprised when people pull away without warning. Don't be shocked when someone becomes cold and you can't find a reason. Don't take the change in energy personally. Just accept what your spirit already told you long ago. Not everyone can handle the energy of the chosen. Not because the chosen are better, but because their spirit is honest. An honest energy confronts what is fake. The chosen can't fake laughter. They can't pretend to be something they're not. They can't pretend to be loyal. Their spirit rejects anything false. It's not personal, it's spiritual. That's why the chosen get tired in meaningless spaces. That's why gossip exhausts them. That's why small talk drains them. That's why fake kindness makes them uncomfortable. It's not arrogance. It's because their soul has grown beyond shallow interactions. They want depth, truth, realness, and quietness. They find more peace alone than in noisy company. They find more happiness in a quiet walk than a crowded room. They would rather sit quietly with someone who is real than be surrounded by 100 people who are pretending. Their joy isn't from attention, it's from being true to themselves. This ability, this sensitivity, wasn't something they asked for. It was something they survived to get. Every betrayal refined it. Every heartbreak sharpened it. Every disappointment purified it. Now their spiritual awareness is a sacred tool, and their peace is their shield. So when they feel that shift in energy, they don't argue. They don't fight to stay. They don't beg for closeness. They respect the signal and quietly leave. They let people keep their comfort. They let spirits reveal themselves. They don't need to know the end. They already sense the conclusion before the conversation ever finished. Energy doesn't lie. And when you're chosen, you no longer beg for a clarity that your spirit already whispered to you. The truth is, the chosen are always just one conversation away from disappearing. Not because they are unstable, but because they are unwilling to stay where they are no longer valued. They don't hold on to misaligned people out of fear. They don't trade their peace for being close to someone. They don't chase energy that drains them. They move with respect for themselves and for what they carry. When they feel that shift in tone, that hesitation, that subtle dismissal, that lack of happiness when they enter, that hidden contempt, they don't confront it, they separate themselves. And in that separation, they protect what is sacred, because what they carry is not for everyone. Their energy isn't for everyone. Some people are not bothered by what you said, they're bothered by how your spirit feels. And that's not your fault. That is the price of being in alignment. That is the cost of being authentic. You won't be for everyone, but you will be exactly what the right people have been looking for. So trust the energy. Trust the shift. Trust what you feel, even when it doesn't make sense, even when the words don't match the energy, even when the smile feels fake, even when the room claps but your spirit feels uneasy. Trust that this isn't fear or judgment. This is your gift, and your gift will always lead you to the truth. Because no matter what masks are worn, no matter how good the performance, energy doesn't lie. Some paths in life were never meant for a crowd. Roads so narrow, so sacred, so perfectly made that even a whisper from the wrong person can make the traveler get lost. When you are chosen, your path won't look like others. It can't, because what you carry is too important, too sacred, too precise to share with just anyone. From the moment you were marked before your first breath, the journey ahead was built on a foundation of solitude, not loneliness, but divine separation. The world may tell you that success is measured by how many people walk with you, how many cheer for you, and how many clap when your name is called. But the soul knows a different truth. The soul knows there are some mountains you must climb alone. No one teaches you this. No one prepares you for the quiet nights when no one checks on you. No one tells you that being called means being cut off, cut away, cut out of the comfort you once knew. Because when you are chosen, you can't move like everyone else. You can't lean on others the way you used to. You can't wait for someone to agree with a vision only you were given. There is no map when you are called, only the voice within. You will watch others walk together, holding hands, laughing, and with plans that align, and you'll wonder why your feet feel like they are moving in a different direction. You'll try to join them, try to fit in, try to walk their road, but your spirit will become restless. Your peace will be lost. And deep down you will know that this isn't your path, because your road isn't wide. It's not paved. It's not easy. It's a wild path that breaks you before it builds you, and only those who are spiritually equipped can survive it. You cannot bring unaligned people into a sacred space. You cannot share sacred air with casual spirits. What is on your life is special, and special assignments require special environments. So you walk, sometimes with tears, sometimes with fear, sometimes with the weight of questions too heavy for the day. But you walk, not because it's easy, but because your soul knows that staying still would be an act of disobedience. You walk even when your heart is heavy. You walk even when your strength is low. You walk not because you can see the end, but because you trust the one who lit your path. And as you walk, you will lose things, people, comfort, and familiarity. You'll try to hold on, try to explain your growth, try to soften your separation, but the road doesn't change for nostalgia. The calling doesn't make things convenient. There comes a time when you must choose between their approval and your purpose, between being liked and being true to yourself. And being true to yourself always walks alone, at least for a while. But don't be mistaken. There is honor in walking alone. There is discovery in the quiet. There is a clarity that only comes when there is no one else's shadow walking beside you. In the silence, you learn the sound of your own spirit. You hear the divine voice more clearly. You begin to understand what it means to be supported not by applause but by purpose. When you are chosen, the road becomes a mirror. It shows you your true self, not the version others see, but the raw, unfiltered, sacred self. The self who doubts, who hopes, who struggles the faith, who questions the quiet, but who keeps moving anyway. You learn your rhythms. You find your capacity. You realize that you are not fragile. You are being strengthened. There's something holy about walking alone, not because you prefer it, but because you have been called to it. You begin to see that the isolation wasn't rejection. It was a kind of protection. It was the divine wrapping you in silence so that you wouldn't be contaminated by voices not meant for your destiny. You were being set apart, not pushed aside. And yes, there are days when the silence feels too loud, when the path feels too long, when you wish for company, for conversation, for someone to just understand. But even in that longing, you are being purified. You are being taught the sacred art of leaning not on people but on a higher presence. The truth is, when you're chosen, even well-meaning people can become distractions. Even kind hearts can unknowingly slow you down. Sometimes the journey requires a solitude so deep that even love must wait outside the gate. Not because you don't love them, but because this part of your walk is not for spectators. It is just between you and the spirit that called you. That's why doors close. That's why the phone stops ringing. That's why the ones you thought would walk with you forever slowly fade into memory. They weren't meant to go where you're going. And your heart, though bruised, must accept it. Some bonds were only bridges. Some connections were only lessons. Some hands were only meant to hold you for a chapter, not the whole story. And still you walk. You walk because the road may be narrow, but it is necessary. You walk because what's ahead cannot be delayed. You walk because you now know this isn't a punishment. It's preparation. You're being made ready for a responsibility others will never have to carry. You're being taught how to walk without needing to be carried. You're being made into a storm walker, a light bearer, a soul who doesn't flinch when the challenges come. Because this path, though lonely, is building something in you that cannot be broken. Others may get success easily, but you will get strength. And there will come a day when you look back and realize you never really walked alone. There was always something walking with you, within you, guiding you, holding you up when your knees felt weak, lifting your face when tears blurred your vision. That unseen hand, that eternal comfort. That divine presence that needed your full attention. That's why others couldn't come. They would have distracted you from the one who was training you for your destiny. This is why the chosen walk on paths only wide enough for one. Because the sacred journey requires your full presence. Because there is something ahead with your name on it, and if anyone else tried to walk it with you, they'd step on what only you are meant to carry. So, let them misunderstand. Let them call it isolation, pride, or strange. Let them watch from their wide roads. You are not called to explain your walk. You are called to finish it. And when you do, when you reach the clearing after the wilderness, when the dust settles, and your strength shines through the bruises, those who watched from a distance will wonder how you made it. And you'll know you made it because you walked roads meant only for one set of footprints, and you never stopped walking. There are places only quietness can take you, depths of the soul that no conversation can reach, truths that will never surface in the noise of a crowd, but rise like a quiet prayer in the stillness of being alone. And if you've ever found yourself in the middle of that quietness, hurting, wondering, and asking why the room became empty when your heart grew full, you're not cursed. You're not forgotten. You're being taught. Loneliness isn't a punishment, it's a lesson. And the classroom has no windows, no applause, and no affirming nods. It has only you, your breath, your questions, and an unseen hand of something sacred pressing gently on your shoulder saying, "Sit down. We have work to do." Because chosen ones don't just wake up wise. They don't just become centered. They don't simply awaken. No, they are first broken, stripped, emptied, and placed in a quietness that teaches them what no mentor ever could. That quietness, that space of separation and self-discovery, that's where the roots grow. People think loneliness is the enemy. But for the chosen, it's an invitation. It's the divine saying, "Come away from their voices so you can finally hear mine. Come away from the noise, the opinions, the distractions, the dependence. Come away from needing to be understood and into the sanctuary of simply being." The world has taught us to fear being alone as if it's proof of failure, as if solitude is a sign that something is wrong. But what is sacred knows better. What is sacred knows that before elevation comes isolation. Before clarity comes the emptiness. Before a new life comes the pain of carrying something no one else can feel. And yes, it hurts. Yes, there are nights when the quiet is so thick it feels like it's pressing down on your chest. Mornings when you reach for a hand isn't there. Moments when you long to be seen, not by a crowd, but by just one person who understands. But still, no one comes. And that's when the teaching begins. In that desire to be known, you are taught how to know yourself. In that ache for connection, you are taught how to connect with your Creator. In that space of having no one, you meet the only one who has never left you. This is the mystery of the classroom of loneliness. What feels like emptiness is actually the presence of the sacred, without distractions, unfiltered, and unshared. You finally become quiet enough to hear what's been whispered to your spirit for years, but the noise kept drowning it out. There are things about yourself you will never learn in the presence of others. You won't find your voice while constantly listening to theirs. You won't discover your power while leaning on their strength. You won't develop a new perspective while looking through their eyes. You have to sit in the quietness and face the parts of yourself you've been avoiding. The old wounds, the buried questions, the insecurities you hid with smiles, the gifts you've been too afraid to claim, and the truth of who you are beneath all the layers of who you've had to be. That truth waits for you in the quiet, and loneliness brings you to its door, but we resist it, we run. We scroll, we text, we call, we fill every moment so we don't have to feel the empty space. We fear the quiet because we fear what it might show us. But here's the truth: the silence won't break you, it will rebuild you. It will teach you how to be yourself without needing permission. It will show you how to walk without needing applause. It will lead you to a strength that doesn't beg to be seen. And when you rise from that place, when the season of being alone changes, you won't come out the same. You'll speak with authority, not borrowed from books or from others, but grown in the garden of your own pain. You'll walk with a grace no one taught you, because it was forged in the fire of your solitude. You'll stop chasing connection and start building true alignment. You'll no longer accept company that costs your peace or conversations that weaken your spirit. Because you'll have learned that loneliness doesn't mean you are unworthy of love. It means you are being prepared to recognize it when it's real. Loneliness doesn't mean you are unloved. It means you are being emptied of fake affection so you can receive something true. Loneliness doesn't mean you are being punished. It means you are being positioned, corrected, and refined, because your next season requires a version of you that can stand without needing to be held. And that version of you is only born in the classroom of being alone. You don't need to fear it. You don't need to fight it. You don't need to explain it to those who don't understand. Some won't get it. They'll think you're pulling away, becoming distant or cold. Let them wonder. You're not retreating. You're returning. Returning to your soul, returning to your inner wisdom, returning to the still, sacred truth at the center of your being. There is a kind of wisdom that doesn't come from conversation. There is a kind of healing that doesn't happen in public. There is a kind of alignment that requires you to walk through the valley of your own becoming with no one cheering. Just you and the voice that says, keep going. The chosen are not made on platforms. They are made in silence. And the loneliness you feel isn't your end, it's your beginning. You are not empty. You are being cleared. You are not forgotten. You are being formed. You are not invisible. You are being instructed. And when the lesson is complete, you'll know. You'll walk into a room and no longer shrink. You'll hear the noise and no longer want it. You'll see the crowd and no longer envy it, because you'll have learned deep in your bones that your soul can be satisfied in quietness, that your spirit can sing even when no one is listening, and that your joy isn't dependent on being around people, but on having peace. Your worth isn't reflected in company, but in your calling. This is the gift the classroom gives you. It's quiet, it's lonely, but it is never without purpose. And when you graduate from that sacred space, you'll walk differently. Not because others change, but because you did. There are people in this world whose presence feels like a safe place. You don't just meet them, you experience them. When they enter a space, it's not with noise but with knowing, not with flash but with a quiet strength. You don't always notice them right away, not because they are invisible, but because they don't need to be seen. Their energy speaks before their name is even said. These are not average people. These are the chosen, the aware, the deeply awakened. They don't rush. They don't speak just to fill silence. They don't throw themselves around like loose change, hoping to be picked up by whoever passes by, because their spirit is too valuable for casual company. You can feel the significance of who they are the moment they sit across from you, not in pride, not in being better than others, but in their presence, in their depth, in their wisdom, in the way they look at you, not just at your face but through your mask, in the way their quietness challenges your noise, in the way their stillness reveals your need to impress. A deeply spiritual person can't be kept in shallow relationships. They can't thrive on small talk. They can't grow in rooms where everything is a show and nothing is real. They weren't created to entertain, they were created to elevate. But that elevation comes with a price, and not everyone is willing to pay it. To walk beside someone like this, to truly share a space with them, requires more than charm. It requires emotional capacity. It requires a level of self-awareness most people haven't developed. It requires presence, honesty, and respect. It demands that you come clean or not come at all, because anything false cannot survive in their energy. Their spirit won't allow it. This is why the chosen are often alone. Not because they don't love people, but because they cannot be casual with what is sacred. Their time is sacred. Their calling is sacred, and sacred things must be guarded, not given away freely. They learned this the hard way. They've given their heart to those who hurt it. They've poured their energy into others who only came to take. They've shared deep truths with shallow spirits, only to be met with confusion or betrayal. And so now they protect their energy like a priest guards a holy place. Not because they are closed off, but because they have been hurt. Not because they are bitter, but because they've finally become wise. There's a moment every chosen person remembers, the moment they realized their light was being dimmed not by enemies, but by people who were too casual with their presence. People who were supportive when it was easy, but disappeared when the real work began. People who loved the gifts but had no respect for the person who gave them. And when that moment came, they didn't get angry. They quietly exited with grace, with tears maybe, but with a deep knowing that their spirit was never meant to be handled without care, because casual energy contaminates sacred space. When you are walking in your purpose, when your every breath is connected to something divine, when your soul is sensitive to the changing seasons, you cannot afford to keep company with those who only come to be entertained. Your spirit needs a deep connection, a give and take, a solid foundation, not flattery or surface attention. You've outgrown relationships that feed your ego but starve your essence. You've learned that being alone with your spirit intact is better than being with others who cost you your peace.